But there was something else going on as well at that time. And this is, of course, the verse or the section of the Bible that most theologians will run a mile from. Genesis chapter 6, where it says, "And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, that daughters were born unto them, that the Elohim saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives, all of which they chose. And the Lord said, My spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he is also flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. And goes on, there were giants, Nephilim, in the earth in those days. And also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, that's Bible speak for shag them, and they bore children to them, and the same became mighty men, of which were men of renown." Now, interestingly, over the last sort of 190 years, many ancient texts have been returned to us, starting with the Egyptian hieroglyphs, of course, thanks to Jean-Francois Champollion, who, interestingly enough, when he was 7 years of age, told his parents that he had come here to decipher the Egyptian hieroglyphs, which was very interesting because he was 7 years of age in 1797, 2 years before the Rosetta Stone was discovered. And since he cracked the code in 1820, more and more of these ancient texts, ancient knowledge, wisdom has been returned to us, not least the Book of Enoch. And in the Book of Enoch, which is an amazing read, it's quite short actually, but, and you can download this for yourself. It says, "And the angels, the children of heaven, saw them, handsome and beautiful daughters, and desired them. And they were altogether 200. And they descended into Ardos, which is the summit of Mount Hermon. And they called the Mount Hermon, for they swore and bound one another by a curse." So here we have a reference to angels, shagging the human women, having children by them, 200 of them being put here by somebody, and they're being bound by a curse. And then from the book of Jared, which of course was only returned to us in 1947 with the Dead Sea Scrolls, it says, "In the days of Jared, 200 watchers descended on Ardis, Mount Hermon. On this mountain the watchers swore an oath and bound themselves to it." So what we have is 200 watchers. Now there's a long debate as to who the watchers were, but it's very evident that the watchers were not of this earth. They were of another race, and they had obviously transcended an agreement or an arrangement or law by having relations with human women. And you can just imagine them at the court, can't you? "I did not have relations with that woman." I think he said that before. So there they are, 200 of them, and they're bound here. Going back to the book of Enoch, it says, "And Azazel taught men to make swords and daggers and shields and breastplates." Azazel, one of the watchers. "And from now on you will not ascend into heaven for all eternity. And it has been decreed that you will be bound on earth for all the days of eternity." This is like the judge sentencing the watchers to their time. "And before this you will have seen the destruction of your beloved sons, and you will not be able to enjoy them, but they will fall before you by the sword. And he," whoever he was angry with them and bound them until the time of consummation of their sin in the year of mystery." Well, now, I have to jump forward very quickly here because I'm going to share something with you that absolutely, when I discovered this, I spent another year on further research before I felt the confidence and belief to be able to make the observation I'm going to make to you. Those people who believe themselves to be the rightful rulers of this global fiefdom absolutely believe themselves to be the descendants of the Watchers. And therefore, they are the rightful rulers in their minds of this planetary fiefdom. But their sentence is up in the year of mystery. Now, this, of course, is somewhat cryptic, because what could the year of mystery be? Well, what I'm going to show you is that I believe that these guys have known that the year of mystery is 2012, and that they have known it for probably a few thousand years. 2012 has only been in the popular awareness since 1987. with the publication of Jose Arguelles' book, The Mayan Factor. Before that, there was only a few Mayanists who had any awareness whatsoever of the significance of the year 2012 in terms of the end of the 5,125-year Mayan long count, which of course actually comes to an end at 1111, according to the US Naval Observatory, at 1111 on the 21st of December 2012. So how do I make this leap of that the year of mystery is 2012? Well, I'm actually going to draw on some research from a guy called David Flynn here, because again, I mean, the remarkable synchronicities of research. I mean, Einstein, many other researchers have experienced this phenomena, that when you focus on something and you know there's a piece of the jigsaw missing, you know, you've got a whole bunch of pieces, but you know there's more. It's amazing, the more you look, the more you find, you know? It's a bit like Arnold Palmer when he was asked to sort of comment on the quality of his golf, and he said, you know, it's quite amazing. The more I practice, it's a bit like that with research. So these guys, those who believe themselves to be the rightful rulers, the different belief system in the capstone of the pyramid. Mount Hermon, remember. Mount Hermon, this is where the watchers were deposited. Now, Mount Hermon sits at a very, very interesting location on this planet. It actually sits at 33.53 degrees north of the equator and 33.53 degrees east of the 0-degree meridian. Now, when you go to Google Video, check this out, you'll find that that actually isn't correct. Because you have to take into account the adjustment that the 0-degree meridian was moved in 1886 from Paris to London. So were these guys trying to hide something? But when you make the adjustment for that move from Paris, it was called the Rose Line, Roslin, the Rose Line, to London, you come up with 33.53 degrees. Now this is a very, very interesting, and of course there is absolutely a connect between the 33 degrees and the 33 degrees in Freemasonry and of the mystery schools. The Earth is 21,600 nautical miles in circumference. And of course, that's 360 degrees. So when you take the equation, you take 33.53 degrees divided by 360, multiplied by 21,600, guess what you come up with? 2,012 nautical miles. So Mount Hermon, the exact place where the watchers were deposited X number of years ago, sits at 2,012 nautical miles north of the equator and east of the 0-degree meridian. So these guys, they don't know for sure. They don't know for sure. But let me tell you right now, they are scared shitless that this might be right and that their time in the ascendancy on this planet is coming to an end. And if, you know, another piece of the jigsaw that absolutely convinced me that I was on the right track was a couple of years ago. You remember that the Israelis launched an attack on southern Lebanon under the pretense of one of their soldiers being kidnapped. Well, I knew what was going to happen. I knew exactly. I mean, it was so predictable for me. They were going to take the land up to the Litani River and make sure they effectively controlled all the area around Mount Hermon, which today is controlled by the UN. And then, just before the ceasefire came into effect, so there was 3 days between the ceasefire being agreed and the ceasefire coming into effect. So what did they do? The Israelis ran hundreds of sorties and dropped these cluster bombs in that whole area, making that whole area around Mount Hermon completely uninhabitable. Because if anybody obviously drives over these or walks over these little bomblets, I mean, you lose a limb.